All right, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have on a extremely special guest. It's amazing what's going on today, especially with current conflicts. Today we have on Air Force veteran, CEO and founder of Earth Mission Asia, and father to the great Luke Ryan, Dr. Mitch Ryan. That's an inside joke, obviously. No one knows that.
Thanks, Ethan. Good to be here.
Doctor, thanks for coming on. This is awesome. This has been kind of like a long time coming. Especially what you guys are doing in Burma. You know, I think, in my opinion, a lot of stuff, this kind of stuff kind of flew under the radar a bit in my purview, even as a veteran. But after the Afghanistan evac and the invasion of Ukraine, it kind of, I don't want to say blew the industry up, but it definitely expanded the industry into a lot of people's psyche or a lot of people's just view. Mm-hmm. You know, and then I learned about Earth Mission Asia after that, and then you start hearing, oh, these guys have been around, and then you had Free Burma Rangers, and then you saw them back in, you know, the infamous video back in the ISIS fight, you know, or 2017 or 2018, when that came out, guys were like, who are they? You know, I've seen that, but I didn't know what was going on. And then I started hearing about Burma. I know, sadly, more about that with Sylvester Stallone's Rambo remake, which is phenomenal. Like, I love, that's one of my favorite Rambo movies. And we used to watch it all the time in the Marine Corps. So, but yeah, this is awesome having you on. You shed light on the situation, what you guys are doing in Burma, how you're helping the local people, the civil war that's been going on for, I mean, the longest in modern history. But before we dive into that, you know, let's go into, you know, where you grew up, you know, how you joined the Air Force, how you became in the medical field, all that kind of good stuff.
Just to comment on the Rambo movie, if it wasn't focused on Sylvester, and if it had been focused, because he works in the movie, works with the Karen people who we're working with, it would have been a different level movie. It would have been awesome.
It was,
but some of the Karen didn't like it.
Oh yeah,
because it was all about him.
So,
anyways, going back to how I started, when I was in about third grade, went to a church service, and there was a missionary doc from Africa that's sitting there showing his slides from Africa, and that really engaged me, and left that saying, man, this is what I want to do. Didn't know where, didn't know. That's pretty young, just being focused on medicine to some people that needed it, didn't have access to healthcare. And pretty much with a brief diversion into wanting to be an astronaut, that's pretty much what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I went to college, got into med school. It's pretty expensive these days to pay for medical school. So Air Force picked up that tab for 3 years. So then I got out of medical school, did a family practice residency for 3 years, and then paid back the Air Force for 3 years. So then I was active duty. We were stationed in Michigan during the first Gulf War. Wasn't deployed. I was on the primary team to go, but they never sent us. So we just sat in Michigan. A bunch of our guys did. It was a SAC base, but a bunch of them left.
Just curious too, if you, when you were younger and knowing you wanted to like volunteer and do the stuff in Africa, was the Soviet-Afghan war ever on your mind then through the 80s or anything like that? Like,
no.
Like,
it was on my radar, but I really wasn't thinking location yet at that point. All I remember from that conflict was that the Olympics, I think it was Carter, right? I think he canceled the Olympics for that protest of that. But when I was in college, I did a short-term stint in Pakistan, and so that's we helped a guy out in the Sindh, and then went and worked with a missionary doc up near Lahore, and that I really enjoyed doing that. Again, we were just in college, but he was letting me sew up and do things that you probably wouldn't be able to do anywhere else. But they were overseeing us. But, you know, it was just a good experience. And so then coming back from that, that's a good goal to keep me focused on not getting caught up in all the business side of medicine and all the requirements that, you know, it's easy to lose yourself into that struggle.
Well, I imagine Pakistan too. I mean, I traveled myself, not only deploying, but like seeing the world at a young age. And then I also traveled after that backpack through like Central America and all that stuff. But Pakistan, going as, a young man, I imagine that's like, it's a whole nother planet. Like, some people are like, you went to Mexico, but it's like, you go over to, Afghanistan or Pakistan or even, the Middle East or North Africa. I mean, it's another, or Asia for that matter, like Japan or.
No, you're right.
It's another planet.
It's another, the culture's totally different.
Everything.
But I think it's eye-opening, but it's good. It makes you think through your own belief systems, value systems, and you become more open to at least listening to what other people are, their perspectives and things. Yeah,
that's awesome. I mean, like I said,
I think it'd be good to reintroduce that to,
to
the whole idea of Peace Corps or, overseas service for people. It just gives you a different perspective and appreciation for the struggles and the awesomeness, but also the bad stuff too. I mean, you become really aware that it's there. But in the midst of that, there's a ton of good, and to know that you're going to have to be discerning the rest of your life.
No, I agree. And my wife and I love to travel, and she, we talk about how, you're grateful to be an American, like when you come back. And
sometimes.
Yeah. But it was like when you go from one place, and then you get to come back, and you're like, especially when I deployed, I was like, awesome. I'm back to like, Wi-Fi,
hot
showers, and even the stuff she hasn't been to some crazy places, but you go down like Roatan, or you go down to some, you see the poverty, or you see, there's no safety nets, you see culture too, and you're like, oh, okay, like, and it's not bad, but at the same time, you're kind of like, okay, like we're seeing what the world is. You're taking in, like I said, the good and the bad,
And I think we've seen a lot of military guys coming through visiting. They're not afraid to that differences. That's one good thing I think coming out of military experience is that you're not afraid to try different cultures and go take a deep dive into a different culture. And once you get past the tourist level, I think you start meeting people, and that's where you see the really good things. And actually, I always talk about missions as always being two ways. We do bring skills and resources, but there's so much that they have to offer to us and that we need to bring back. How to live in community. Americans in general we've forgotten how to do that. We go after work, we go back to our houses, and that's it. We don't know our neighbors' names. And I think, in settings, certainly where I'm working with the Karen, it's very community-based. And to see you start to realize that's how we're made, to be in community. And that actually, there's a strength there that I think is really important for us to realize. There's a book, Tribes by Sebastian Junger.
Yep.
Have you read it?
That one I don't know. I've read, actually have it up here. I've read Fire. I read War. I think Tribe I missed.
It's a really good one.
It's really good.
I mean, he's talking about, as I understand, we're made to be in community. So that gives us strength. So he's talking about after 9/11 where, New Yorkers kind of identified with each other, and it's like their rates of suicide went down. The admissions to psych institutes went down afterwards, not up, down.
And that does make sense. I mean, we've talked about that, and even with our household, like the community, like even our family, we're getting older, but my parents are retired, her parents are semi-retired, and it's like coming over every weekend or coming over even more. And then I told her, I was like, we grew up, it was the 90s, but it felt like we were doing more with our friends, even if they weren't in the neighborhood, like the community that you like, I don't say identify with, but like the community that you grew up with, and like, hey, this is the friends that are coming in. And I've even made that effort with my wife, and she agrees. It's like, hey, this fall, we're going to start doing the traditions like every Sunday football games.
Yeah,
so we're having friends over, like everyone is welcome, or like there's at least 5-6 families that are on that list of like, come on over. If there's a noon game or 3:00, that will be at our house.
Yep.
Come, anyone's welcome.
And that's exactly there's a shared narrative there that you build off of, and I think that that plays to your strengths, and then or your strength and somebody else's maybe weakness, but then you can cover for each other, and and we see it in our Karen setting in the villages is that it's across generations as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the older people do have a function and a purpose and a, you know, to do, and the younger ones do too. And it's yeah, it feels good. They call me grandpa there, so that's kind of, I'm the old guy.
That's awesome. So we'll kind of backtrack a little bit. So you did Lahore, Pakistan, got to do some really cool stuff while you were there.
Yep.
Getting your hands dirty, and then coming back. How was that Air Force time? Was it fun? Was it, was it?
Yeah,
it 3 years.
It was 3. Yeah, just did 3 years. I mean, yeah, it was good. It was good. I was in charge of the emergency room, and so I really loved working with our emergency room crew, and but they offered good training, and I had no idea at the time that I'd be needing. You know, we emphasized triage and doing the combat casualty care course. And so all that served me well for what I'm doing now.
So they integrated that then, like with, of course, that would make sense. You're doing it for the military, so they're like, you're going to be prepped for this type of medicine or combat trauma and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome. So then you kind of got that early, I would say early look, but now it seems so much more common for guys like us. It's like combat medicine.
Everybody does that.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody does it now. And there's like complete companies that are everywhere, social media, doing it. But back then, I imagine that was like, oh man, that's like a really good insight. Like you're not just doing clinical, you're doing combat trauma.
There's, and it's different.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You emphasize different things. So, and you much more focused on, bleeding control, for example, and then comes the breathing, and then, not too worried about C-spine stuff, So it's different. Yeah. But especially at triage, that was a new concept to me.
That's awesome. So then, so you did your time in the Air Force. Then what evolved? Then
then we went back to I married into Arkansas. Okay. Which is a good thing. And my family had moved down there in the meantime. And so I worked emergency rooms down there for a couple years. And then getting back to what I've always wanted to do, we started looking for a place to go. And then we ended up in a project that was doing an eye hospital in northern Pakistan. This is like way out in Himalayas. That was an interesting move. Talk about culture shock. I mean, getting on a plane with one-way tickets with 2 kids and a wife. And
I was gonna say, how was that? I'm sure the wife was cool with that. I mean, I imagine this plan was a little play.
She said she wanted to travel, so I don't think I think she was thinking more like Florence and Rome and stuff. But she was good. It was difficult for her.
Yeah.
But we ended up doing language school for a couple of years of Urdu, and so then while the hospital was being built. While the hospital was being built, though, the primary mover and fundraiser kind of dropped out. So then we had a whole team assembled. It was like, well, either we do it, we take up the mantle, or we all go home. And so at that point, we'd already been in it for a couple of years. So that's when we started really upping Earth Mission's game, asking for funds, and people responded.
And that was the 90s, like in the 90s era?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, like kind of, I should say more in the technical, but so you guys have been there for a few years. How does that, like I said, it was the 90s, so it's like we always think differently now, like GoFundMe and the way you raise money and stuff like that. How was that in the 90s? And then obviously people are tracking it, building the hospital, staff is there. How does that kind of logistically work? Yeah.
Totally different. I mean, I end up writing the software to keep track of who was funding us. Now you've got services that do that and send out receipts and stuff. But we just started. We had told our story about our Pakistan visit pretty much everywhere we went. So medical school and then the Air Force, and so a lot of people knew about it. And so then when we decided to go, we just wrote letters to everybody, and money came in.
Nice. Well,
we were really blessed on that. That was something that was pretty amazing to us.
And I know you did Lahore when you were doing your medical school, but was there like a distinct reason why beyond that? Like, I know you got exposed to it that you decided to do Pakistan?
We went back then when I was in doing residency. So that by then I kind of knew what I was doing, in college, I had no idea what I was doing. But by the time I was in residency, I had a good idea, and we just saw a lot more the struggles that people were going through that didn't have to, and the need for competent medical care, and felt like we could really make a difference there.
Okay, that's awesome. And I know that the terrain, can you describe the terrain a little bit? I mean, like you said, you're part of the Himalayas. Like some people think Pakistan, like they think southern Pakistan, or they think,
the northern part's beautiful. The Hunza Valley, Gilgit, we were in Gilgit, a place called Gilgit, which is often on the map because there's nothing else around there. But 15,000 foot peaks that are not named, snow covered. Yeah. It was a high desert, probably about 5,000 feet, but everything is irrigated from the glacier melts. And so then as you get into the higher, there's the big mountains like Nanga Parbat, K2. They're all up in that area.
That's awesome.
So we would sometimes take the kids up to base camp of Nanga Parbat. We did that. Probably it was a little stupid, but we were going through snow that was waist deep. I think Luke, he's about waist high. So
that's cool because it's fun because we watch, again, me and my wife, but we love to travel, and I've always wanted to go back. Like Afghanistan, it's like I always say my heart's always in Afghanistan. I loved the culture. I loved the terrain. I was in the northeast. Okay. And so kind of similar to that northern
very
Pakistan
similar,
region.
Yep.
And we watched this like guy that we like to watch travel vlogs, but he went to Pakistan.
Yep.
And he did the north, and they're trying to like bring tourism in.
Yep.
And he did a 2-parter on YouTube. It's phenomenal. Like you could watch, be like, wow, that is amazing. Like, and they go through the valleys, and it's just like.
Swat Valley.
I showed her. I was like, "This is kind of what Afghanistan looks like," and I was like, honestly, we should go. Like, I was like, "This is awesome." Like, and she watched it. She's like, "Wow, that is beautiful." Like, especially in the north. I was like, "Yeah, that's where you'll see breathtaking mountains and landscapes." Yeah. And you really see the culture.
Snow Peak. Yeah, no, and that was one of my favorite things. We had, I can't remember now how many employees we had. 20 employees and going to their homes back up in these valleys and stuff, and they would treat you like guests and serve you tea, and you'd give you the best pillow in the house. And just really enjoyed that part of their culture, that how they treat guests, and then we were doing mostly cataract surgery. So, and people there were stone cold blind from cataracts. I mean, they could not. We had guys that never saw their grandkids, and then we'd do the surgery, and we were doing the modern surgery then, which is you put a little lens inside the eye, and so they see pretty normal right after. As soon as we took the patch off the next day, and they'd see normal. You just see them look around, and that was just super fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And we were doing hundreds of those.
That's pretty cool.
So we got pretty famous pretty fast.
Is there a reason why was that cataract was like the main effort per se? Is there like just like in countries like Pakistan, is that just something that takes over like faster, or is that just...
there's different theories on that. At least when last I had studied it, one was that just exposure to UV light. So a high desert, a ton of sun. Also, people on the sea, they get a double dose bouncing off the sea as well. There was another theory by the Brits was that sometimes that early on getting severe diarrhea with dehydration would somehow alter the proteins in your lens that would later on then be prone to cataract. But mostly it was just because everybody gets cataracts when they get old, and they don't have anybody doing surgeries. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was quite a fun, because it's so dramatic. They go from blind to seeing normal, and we did a little video on one guy and just showed him. We went up picked a guy that was from way up in the mountains, so it was a beautiful area. And interviewed him, and then brought him back down and did the surgery, and hoping his retina was okay, because if you can't see, the cataracts are so dense, you can't really see behind to confirm that. But just hoping that he could see well afterwards, and taking a patch off. And for a long time, he doesn't say anything. He just kind of looks around at people, and we thought, well, maybe he's not seeing so well. And then our techs, talked to him, says, well, can you see? 1, 2, and then people started talking. Well, what we didn't realize is he didn't know who we were. Although we had been with him for 2 weeks, talking to him all the time, interviewing him, he never saw us. He just heard us. Mm-hmm. And so he was trying to put faces to voices. And, his grandson was there. He thought he was maybe a neighbor kid, didn't know who. And so then he starts just smiling and crying. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of thing is quite rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's really cool. So you guys are doing all this. What's the family dynamic or life like, like say growing up in Pakistan? It'd be awesome, but your day to day, and how did you guys adapt?
There were several families up there at that time, and so we had a cooperative school. So our boys made friends with some of the other expats up there that were working, and I feel like they had a pretty decent mix of cultures and experiences. I remember we would, they would play a computer game, for example, SimCity, and then they would just go down and translate that to the canal that ran through our hospital property and be floating boats up and down the canal and building cities on the canal face. So I thought it was pretty good. Will say the biggest negative thing was that, they didn't have as much experience with their grandparents and extended family members that we'd like, but they had friends and
that's awesome. Yeah. And so how big were the expat community that was involved with you on site?
There was 4 or 5 families there.
Are you head doctor then, or do you guys have multiple doctors? Or
Yeah, there was usually 2 of us. I'm from a family practice background doing ophthalmology, but then we had an ophthalmologist join our team later.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So is there any fun highlights that you guys remember from Pakistan? That was that was like a New Year's or a Christmas.
Well, yeah. Good question. So forget what it was. I think the Millennium celebration we did there. The thing was that you would get some guys to take some tires up to the top of one of these mountains or the way up, and then you set them on fire, and then everybody gathers down to the base, and that's what our fireworks. And then they would roll the flaming tires down into the mountain, and everybody kind of not sure where it's going to go. So,
that's awesome. Yeah,
that was our version of the celebration.
I figured that kind of, I shouldn't say close to China, but I figured they would have some sort of fireworks thing, but not just rolling tires on fire.
Yeah, there was 3 different Muslim sects there that often struggled together, get along together, and so there was a lot of conflict between them. So they kind of minimized the number of explosives and gunfire and stuff. Yeah. So somebody would shoot off an AK, and then everybody else in the town, just to make sure everybody else knew they had one, would shoot theirs off. So it would get pretty crazy sometimes.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So then, speaking of, then you said you have 3 different Muslim sects or everything going. How was that then? Did they all kind of were you neutral ground, and all that kind of stuff?
Yep. The biggest struggle we had was in actually hiring people, because we had to balance who we hired, because that jobs there is a big deal, and we would not reference which area they came from, but we always ended up hiring from one particular sect, and it was interesting. They put an emphasis on girls' education, so we would just try to find the person who was most interested in learning, most curious, had learned the most about, even if it was just a hobby. We wanted to know how much you had pursued that, and that was what we came to. That got us in a little bit of trouble, because they thought we were favoring that particular sect, and we weren't. We just were looking for intelligent kids that could figure things out.
Mm-hmm. And getting supplies up that way, what was that like back? Like said,
my wife did a lot of that. Okay. So we were ordering things from different countries, from get intraocular lens from Nepal. Eventually, we were able to figure out how to get things from India. that wasn't easy. Pakistan and India don't like talking to each other, so we have to reroute things, but they make good medical products. So, and just we could do a whole cataract operation for less than $100.
Really?
Yeah, that included our salary, everybody's salaries, and generator and everything. Yeah.
What was that? I know it's a bit different, but what was that translating like then into the U.S. in the 90s? Like a cataract surgery?
Oh, I actually don't know,
okay.
but lots.
Lots, yeah. Yeah, because
most people could afford it. Mm-hmm. Most people could afford that much from that area, and we had a charity commission that would interview each patient, and they would decide. They ask them questions like, how many kids do you have? Are they employed? How much land do you have? How many cows do you have? But the real secret was what they wore on their feet. They come in in a big fancy car and saying they're too poor. Can they please give us a charity? And then we kind of look at their feet, see what they were wearing, and give them away. So, giving away my secrets.
Yeah, not so much the fancy car, but what's on the feet. So what was the kick or the tip off on the feet? Was it like tennis shoes? Was it like
or barefoot?
Just barefoot.
Yeah, or they have nice shoes and.
That's cool. So you guys, how long did you guys end up doing that for then?
About 13 years.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. How old are you? You're almost born there.
I was 3 when
3?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So having a toddler, are you the oldest?
Youngest.
Oh, youngest.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
His brother is a few years older.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How was that? How is that kind of going back to the family thing? Getting a toddler and
you can ask him that.
Yeah.
That'd be a better question. But I mean, we had a pretty tight group.
It's awesome. I mean, it's super cool. It's like
good memories pretty much for me up to a certain point, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to being good.
Yeah. So I guess we can kind of I mean, how often do you guys come back to the States then, or is that
we were come back every 1 or 2 years?
Okay.
Because again, we're raising support and funding and talking to people, talking to folks about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay. And where was your primary fundraising coming from then? Like Arkansas,
churches, families, anybody to listen.
Yeah.
Podcast guys.
Yeah. Radio back then.
Anybody to listen. Right?
That's awesome. And then, so then 13 years, what kind of made you guys leave and what was kind of that impetus?
Yeah, well, it was 2002. There was a terrorist attack on a school where our kids were, and Carol was at the time. And there was several people killed. Happened to be all of the staff. But their intent was to do a suicide bombing in this small basketball-sized courtyard. And but I think they got tied up in traffic. It was a British-based school, so the Brits, they got their tea times. It's on time. You're waiting for nothing. Kids all went back to classes, and there was one kindergarten class that was outside. So when they first shot the guards at the gate, the guy that was outside actually was from Afghanistan. He knew what an AK sounded. A lot of other people thought it was just some firecrackers, patakas. So he got his kids running and just said hide. And then later we kind of tracked their story, like where they went. I don't think they ever even saw any kids. It just happened to be like the school health clinic had just moved due to remodeling. Otherwise, they were usually right against the windows. Josh's class all hit the floor when they heard it, and the windows were such that you couldn't see in there very well if people were on the floor. And then they shot one of the kids' moms in the wrist, and she started screaming, and everybody then knew that, okay, this is not firecrackers. Everybody knew, and they started locking things down. But they never saw any kids. They never detonated themselves. They went on through, and I read it later, maybe a week or two later, where in Kashmir the 2 guys blew themselves up.
It was that. I mean, that was post 9/11. So was tension starting to rise then in Pakistan?
Well, after 9/11, we left because I went down to the big mosque downtown Gilgit where we were, and had a good conversation with the Mulvi from there, and just in Urdu talking to him and just saying, hey, I know things are going to get crazy here. I just want you to know we worked up here together, and we are Christian, you're Muslim, but we all live together fine up here. And he was a good guy. He was one of these big bearded lieutenants sitting there next to him, and I said, I wish the BBC could come see us talking together like this, like brothers over chai, and the guy goes, I'm gonna go find one and drag him in here. So, but then we left for it was a few months, and then mainly worried about the reaction that was going to happen. We figured the U.S. was going to step off aggressively. At that point, I think Umar Sharif was supposedly hiding in Pakistan, and we were expecting a real aggressive
like push in or something. Yeah. Well, they were on the Pakistani border in the beginning after 9/11 in Tora Bora, and then and then people were skirting over back and forth, but Pakistan was like an ally, so it was
Yeah, it is quite interesting. Some of the politics behind it, and you start seeing where things get twisted. So at the time, Northern Alliance was coming in from the north, and we would travel through places along the KKH where pretty much emptied out to go fight the Northern Alliance, but they were being told things like, okay, the Northern Alliance is raping girls and castrating boys, and as a good Muslim, you should go defend them. And so they did. Well, what happened was the Taliban just withdrew and left them on the front line, and then pretty much they all died.
And that was was that in the 90s, or that was after 9/11? Or
that was after 9/11.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I imagine, I know, said Soviet-Afghan war, but then through the night, guys would go back and forth, and I know from Pakistan, back in the 80s, Pakistan used to supply the Mujahideen. I don't think so much the Northern Alliance, but they were,
there's
assisting
through
those
Kashmir.
through Kashmir. Yeah,
we
exactly.
probably shouldn't talk a lot about that and cause World War III to break out.
But so I was curious too, because like I said, that's kicking off, or you guys lived there in the 90s, and then that kicks off, 9/11.
And so we were just worried about the reaction. So we came back to the U.S. for a while, and realized there wasn't much of a reaction. And so then we went back and started up again. Then 2002 came around, and then this happened. So then the kids didn't want to leave, all go back to their home country again. They wanted to stay together. And so then we started looking around for different places that they could go, and one of those places was Thailand. And so then the whole high school moved to Thailand, and they were up and running within a few weeks. Found a school that would help procure the visas, found a place that they could still stay together for their high school. And so, moved fast. At that time, though, we still had a hospital there, and we couldn't just drop it and run. So I primarily went back and forth. You can do that with eyes pretty easily. You can schedule surgeries ahead of time. So I'd be in Pakistan for 3 or 4 months, come to Thailand for a month, going back and forth.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So until it could run by itself, we hired another local doctor and got things trained up. So,
and so then that's probably what 2002, 3-ish then, and then, like I said, you see what's going on within Burma, or is that something did you get the word, or
we decided we weren't. It was really hard on Carol, the time in Pakistan. It's not a woman-friendly place, and she didn't learn the language as well. But we ended up decided we're not going to go back because of that. And so then we were kind of looking around and, praying about what we should do next. And I was in church and heard a guy say, well, please donate blankets and food to these Karen IDPs and internally displaced people that haven't crossed the border yet. It was like, what's going on with that? Who are the Karen? What conflict are they involved in? And then that's when we started getting involved with Karen.
That's pretty cool. And then how long did that take then to go from that decision to, hey, we're
so that was
in?
2002, 2005. We were committed then to working with the Karen.
Okay. And then, like I said, you're setting things up. How do you kind of, say, how do you get in, but like, how does that develop then?
Yeah, so we started working with Free Burma Rangers, and so they were working with the Karen, doing primarily relief, bringing in food and blankets and supplies, but also doing some medical training. At the beginning, it was first aid level training, and then they also had what's called a Good Life Club for kids, kind of encouraging kids. So then we started working with them and realized the more I got to know the situation and what was happening inside Burma was that they needed more than just a first aid class. There was very short on even medic level people that maybe had 6 months or even a year of medical training, just hard to find. So we just kept increasing the number of, first it was a couple weeks, and then it was a month, and then it was 6 months. Then we kind of settled into about a year. We started we called it the Jungle School of Medicine. And which is pretty good. We learned a lot. And from that period, realize I'm an American physician. I don't know anything about malaria. I've never seen it before. Typhoid, typhus, these are all things that are bread and butter. And so it needed to figure that whole thing out. And plus it's a whole different formulary, medicine formulary. I don't know the names of the drugs that are available here. So figuring that out, where do we get supplies? So that was a very big learning curve for me. And then the Free Burma Rangers really helped. I think they've got a good network of people. They know a lot of the leaders in the Karen areas, and they introduced them to me. And Dave and I worked together well during that time.
Nice. So then, just not to back up, but can you kind of go over, like I said, Burma, its history, and
okay, good.
even this is where it started. This is the groups, and then even with say Free Burma Rangers, like David Eubanks, how, because he was there before you got there. What kind of spurred him off, and then you guys joining them.
Yeah, Dave's special forces guy. Got out, and his parents were missionaries in Thailand, and if he ever sees this, he's probably going to have a lot of corrections. But he just one day just started helping. Just felt like as a Christian, we are called to help people that are in need. That's actually pretty deep in my own soul as well. That's what defines your spirituality, is you need to help people in need. And we can get into that if you want. But he just started doing that. And so when I came along, they were doing quite a bit to help the Karen, focused on the Karen, but Dave would actually work with other ethnic minorities in Burma. So just to back up a little bit, is there's been conflict in Burma for the last 60, 70 years, since 1948, way back then. Mostly it's a conflict that's been between the central ethnic group, the majority group, the Burmans, controlled by the Burma army. And that's been fighting different ethnic minorities on the peripheral edges of the country. There's 135 different ethnic groups in Burma. Even the name of the country is confusing, right? Burma, Myanmar, same place. So usually those conflicts have been across ethnic lines, pretty much. So we started working with several of those different major ethnic groups.
And then Karen is the main.
Karen was the first one I was introduced to, and just loved the culture, really loved the culture, and made good friends there, and friends that I really respected and deeply admired. And when I would be in there in teaching medicine, even to my students, sometimes it's easy to get frustrated that, hey, you're not understanding. This is an easy concept. They're struggling with my language difference, and because I don't speak Karen. But I knew as soon as I walked out that door to the jungle that I would be the one that needed their help just to survive. I didn't even know what to eat, didn't know, where to go to the bathroom. I just, and they were very, very gracious. Karen are completely gracious about that. They treat visitors with respect. That's actually an interesting story. One early on, I met one of our medics, and we were asking about human dignity. So, the principles of humanitarian aid, if you will, one is humanity, that you're standing for life, decrease suffering, and you support human dignity. And then there's another one, impartiality. And the third one, I think, is neutrality, political neutrality. So those are kind of the pillars of humanitarian aid. The political neutral one being it's an interesting topic to discuss, because that's not necessarily something that all of us hold to. But the one, the humanity with human dignity, and I was asking, what does human dignity mean to you? And he said, my dignity is to be able to give to another person, like a father gives to a son, or a village gives to a stranger, a meal to a stranger. This is, I was kind of expecting the Western perspective. Well, human dignity, that's my rights as a human. You can't take those away. And he's saying it's my dignity is to give. So I was saying, well, what if you ran across the enemy? What would you? He was a medic, so would you offer him help? And he said, if he's asking for help, he did say if he's asking for help, I would do everything I could for him. Maybe that's God's last chance for him. Fast forward a couple of years, we were really deep in the jungle, walked all night and washing up in the river, taking a rest in a hammock. And later that afternoon, he came down and said, hey, we have a Burmese porter that stepped on a landmine. We think we need to do an amputation. Can you look? Because we didn't have any general anesthetic. All we had was some local lidocaine. So we could do a femoral nerve block and sciatic nerve block to kind of cover most of it. Wasn't really excited about that, but that's all we had. So went up to check him, and I thought, no, you've stopped the bleeding. It's not infected. It doesn't look that bad. I think if we get him to surgeon, we can take care of this. So let me go call orthopedics, and so I went down and called the ortho guys, and they said, yeah, we'll take him, but this is a long ways away to get him, and so it's dark by now. Walking back, and he comes up next to me and he goes, Thra means teacher. Thra, actually, we don't think he's a Burmese porter. We think he's Burma Army. In fact, we think he's a Burma Army officer. Now, this is not some guy who's just dished you on Facebook or something. This is a real enemy. This is a guy that's burning the houses, killing your people, raping, pillaging. It's like, oh, and we're in the middle of nowhere. Okay, what do you want to do with them? Yeah, I know what we do with them in Arkansas, but what do you want to do with them? And he said, I think we should do everything we can for him. What he does with that is up to him and God afterwards. And they did. I went out and talked to him and said, okay, we're going to get you out to orthopedics. And I realized, hey, this guy's a little bit portly. It's like, I've never seen a porter that's fat. And it's like, okay, I'm buying their story. And I said, okay, we'll get you out to orthopedics care. I don't think you need to amputate. He just starts crying, and I wish I had the presence of mind to say, hey, these guys know who you are. They're still willing to carry you out. You need to seriously think your life through here. They did. They carried him to surgical care.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That's to me. That's the essence of my faith. Is that? That's what I think Jesus told us to do. That kind of thing. And then it's not complete pacifism, but it's taking care of those around you who are in need and are asking for help.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One thing you could add is just talking about how the second, third, fourth order of effects of that in the war now, where the army they're taking in families of those people too, and the army's numbers are dwindling because why would you want to be on one side over the other? There's really
if we can jump into kind of break down even the geo, go back into the conflict a little bit more, 10,000 foot view, what is going on and why is the border cut off and why is there the conflicts between each group or even say government, the major majority and then all that stuff.
So conflict have been going on for 70 years between Burma Army and ethnic minorities around the edges, on and off, but pretty difficult when it's on. I mean, raising villages. One of the places that we're at now, they showed me the train and what they had to do. There's kind of a big valley with a little crest in the middle, and they would have guys, they'd just be running from the army, just keeping ahead of them, moving. Pretty brutal time. But then in 2015, there was a ceasefire with a lot of the minorities in the military. And then just development took off. Really, trade came into these areas, cell phones, internet, businesses. The internet was huge. Everybody started getting phones. Development just really took off. And so from 2015 to 2021, then just a complete change, I think. And I think the young people during that time that grew up or came to age during that time had a different set of values. And so in 2021, when the military then said again, took over, they had some elections. There are books written about all the politics, but basically, as I understand it, the Aung San Suu Kyi was the leader of the NLD, National League for Democracy, and she, their party got 92% of the votes or something like that, and so pretty strong message. But the military in the Constitution, who had written that they had to have 25% military people in Congress. And to change the Constitution, you had more than 75% vote. So you really couldn't change the vote if the military all voted in block, which they were, of course, instructed to do. So I don't know if that was, the NLD was pushing those margins, trying to get that changed, but then in 2021, February 1st, just before the new elected government was take over, they took over.
Okay.
And so that's when this current conflict started. It's about, going almost 4 years now.
So then is there, again, kind of like the 10,000 foot view, is there a reason why the military is so strong? Is there a different culture within that? Because it sounds like you said there, people are voting, but then it's not like our military. It's we go home or whatever, we have to, it's it feels like that's separate. A different, separate class of people.
Yep,
a
separate class and different values, different, very loyal to their structure. And I don't know why some of these guys are acting like they are. Very privileged. They had a lot of good equipment, good stuff compared to some of the populace. But yeah, so they were one of the stronger militaries in Southeast Asia, were supposed to be, when the coup happened again then in 2021. And right away, the people resisted. I think, in a couple hospitals, 80% of the healthcare was being done by government hospitals, and a couple of the big hospitals said, "This is not our government. We did not vote for this. We're not going back to work." They would see patients privately. They'd see them out in their homes or on the streets, but they closed down, shut down a couple of the big hospitals. And then that quickly spread to other professions, engineers, all kinds. And you look at the pictures from those times, the streets are filled with tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people protesting the coup. And they obviously didn't want to. And then the violence just escalated,
Was there a point then within that 2015 to 2021, was Western countries coming in? Like, did the border open up with Thailand? Because you're saying like developments coming in.
Yeah. So businesses came in.
Like, so that could technically be like an era of like 15 to 21. Like a backpacker could go in and be like,
So we actually, that's when we started our program, was 2015. We could legally get, we opened a hospital in a small, as far out in the rural areas as we could go. And we had a business visa, and we would do everything. We were allowed to do that. So yeah.
So then I think Luke explained to me pretty well too. It was kind of like, this is probably a few months ago you did this, but it was kind of like you had your military dictatorship, and then you have your kind of like the rich people, and then it was like the rest of the population. And like you said, there was like the rich people were like also sick of it. Like they're like, hey, and so then like this alliance kind of formed.
Yeah, some of it. Some of the businesses were obviously cronies that they had deals going with the government, but it seems to me a very large reaction across all sorts of ethnic groups, religion, economic groups, just a very large reaction against that.
So then that time, 15 to 21, then that was generally pretty safe then to operate within. Yeah. And were they calling it Myanmar at that time, or Burma, or like
they called it Myanmar? Myanmar. Okay. I think the U.S. State Department still hadn't recognized Myanmar at that time. They would still use Burma, but like UK would call them Myanmar.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm kind of curious too. Like it's like.
So the name changed. So the name came out of one of the dictators' overthrow. They named the traditional name was Burma from from British colonial times, and so they said, well, this is not the original name. So they wanted to rename it Myanmar. And so if you were aligning yourself with the dictators, you'd say Myanmar, and if you aligned yourself with the old school, you'd say Burma.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I say Burma Army. It's kind of that mindset.
Yeah. No, I totally.
Talk a little bit about just the difference between the like the indigenous people and like Burma proper, Burma Central, and kind of that, how it was the first time it's the uniting of like it's the same common enemy for the first time.
Yeah. So there were, I would say, we worked the Karen ethnic group, one of the ethnic groups on east side of the country, and they'd done very well. There'd be Karen doctors, Karen engineers, and that grew up in the city. They actually didn't know what was happening in the jungle. They kind of bought the party line that said, no, the problems with these jungle people, they're rebellious and resistant to change, and so even they will tell you that they didn't know what was going on in the jungle. That the fact that the Burma Army was still propagating all this kind of atrocities in the jungle. Not until later, they got caught up in it themselves.
Your tune changes pretty quick.
Then you realize,
Yeah.
So when a lot of the hospitals started to resist, they called that CDM, the Civil Disobedience Movement in Burma. That's was huge, and again, that just started ramping up, and it went from protest to at one point the military they shot some 21-year-old girl in the head in one of the protests, and as I remember it, that was the point where things kind of started escalating. They people to put them on Facebook So you'd see this like cell tower. People blow up the cell tower, and post it on their Facebook channels. So it's just kind of
the OPSEC wasn't so
crazy time. Or
Yeah.
and sometimes people would just be hanging out the window showing just what was going on. And I think that helped, actually. I think people realized that there's a large percentage of the people here that don't accept this. And it made them more willing. So then initially people started just fighting back with whatever they had, homemade guns, and it got slowly over the last few years, it's gotten more and more sophisticated. As I understand, the NLD, there's like 20% of the Congress is still in jail 4 years later.
4 years later.
Yeah, and jail's not. It's no joke.
And like you said, it's so kind of crazy foreign to us because we think of our military as like different, from like that. That's a whole class in itself. So you have like this dictatorship of the military. Is there like because you don't hear about it really in our geopolitics. You don't unless like no one knows about it. Everyone knows about Iran that just happened. But it's like. Yeah. Burma, you just don't know. Like I remember the only thing was like literally you guys or like Rambo, but I don't know. But what I'm saying is like, is there a reason for that? Is it just, I don't want to say on the geopolitical stage of like the West or whatever, is it just, I don't say not a big deal, but is it just not of interest, or is like China backing, what I'm saying is like, does China have an interest in the military government? What I'm saying? Like, is there a bigger player or bigger play here,
Yeah, it's a good question. It's interesting there's a website, ACLED, Armed Conflict Location Event Data, and they kind of track objective conflicts around the world and like a number of people killed, risk to civilians, how diffuse is the conflict in the country, and how many groups are involved. And they kind of rank them, Palestine being number one, Burma's number 2 on that list, and it doesn't make the news. But what's interesting, if you go to that website, it's like 2/3 of those places we don't hear anything about in the news. What's going on there? So I think the lesson to me is we really don't have a good perspective or a news source that tells us what's going on in the world. I mean, Asia, if you draw a circle around Asia, China, India, Southeast Asia, that's more people live inside that circle than outside. You can find that infographic online. More than half the kids are there. Most of the mega cities that are growing are there. So if you want to know anything about the future of the planet, economically, politically, environmentally, you need to know what's going on in Asia, and yet we don't hear anything. So in particular, China does have a big interest there, and they are supporting the military. I always kind of thought China was a little bit smarter than that, but because there is such a reaction against the military. I don't think people have anything particular against China. China builds some amazing roads and they bring in amazing resources, but their support from the military is going to cost them in popular vote, economic vote.
So then, like what? Like I said, since since then the Civil War kicks back off after this, kind of peaceful period per se. What's life been like then over there for you guys? And then you said it's starting to escalate. I mean, we're seeing it more and more on our OSINT, what we call the Open Source Intelligent Instagram network.
Okay.
But we're seeing it more and more. You know, you're starting to see it post social media. Things are moving faster. People do want to be informed on conflicts, interests, especially in the veteran community. Obviously, we're all like jonesing for the next fight, so everyone's like, "What's going on?" And but we're starting to see more and more of the. And even then, it's like, they say propaganda, but also it's kind of like morale boosting if you're going to see the rebels go after, the military. Like they post that just like the Ukraine and Russians post their kills. It's like that's how they, say raise funds, but that's how they raise support. This is where they get the word out or something like, wow, I didn't know that was Burma had something going on. People are starting to see that, and it's like,
interesting. There was an earthquake, a couple of months ago that kind of put that on the radar for everybody. And then a bunch of aid big international aid agencies tried to bring relief in, and it kind of all fell into the hands of the dictator. And so I think that may have helped open people's eyes that, hey, what's going on there, and why didn't that work? And so I think that was one thing.
But yeah, what's then that escalation now? It's been like
so
said, yeah.
Since 2023, what has happened is basically, at least in my view, the military is losing. They've lost 2023. They lost something like 60 some bases and villages that they controlled, and then 2024 was like 200.
Really?
So they've turned into much more defensive posture. Now, in the last couple of weeks, there's a couple offensive maneuvers, but usually when they try to do that, the ethnic groups own their homes. You know, they own the area. They know the area. They know that well and defend it well. But mostly it's been turned into a defensive war, and so then what they have is an air force, and so there's a lot of the drones and the jets and bombing stuff, and they seem to be, from my perspective, targeting hospitals. Karenni State, they say every hospital's been hit. A lot of hospitals in Karen State have been hit. Weddings, schools. The NUG minister recently started raising money to build hospitals underground. So I'm not sure, and I'm not sure why hospitals. If it's just it costs money to use these planes, and I don't know, maybe that's the only. Usually people are building hospitals and schools, and then a church with some of their first money, and that's could be the only thing worth justifying a $100,000 bomb on. But I'm not really sure why. So
then the like I said, it's a civil war going on. Is there kind of like leaders on both sides? Like, is there like is it a group coming together? On the resistance side, is there like a head guy or a council that they're, like you said, they're trying to build underground now? I mean, it feels like you're like, it's not to say two governments fighting, but it almost feels like there's two governments fighting.
So it is, and I would say I started to say that, and so some of the ministers left the capital and are in exile and started NUG, National Unity Government. Anyways, they have included some of the ethnic groups in their leadership structure and addressing some of the complaints that the ethnic groups had about the NLD, as I understand conflict. And so that has become a very big, because it involves a lot of the Burmans, includes the Burmans as well as the ethnic groups. And then I forget what the date was, but they at some point basically declared war. And started what they call the PDFs, People's Defense Groups Force.
Yeah, I've seen. There's the videos that I've been watching.
Yeah,
I did like text Luke. I was like, "These are the good guys, right?" Or it's like these guys we're rooting for.
Yeah. And so, they have been working across ethnic groups. So there's PDFs working with Karen, PDFs working with Karenni, PDFs on their own. And that has, I think, brought a certain amount of unity to the groups, at least on the low levels. I don't know about the higher levels. The low levels, these guys are fighting together. They respect each other. And I know from our standpoint, when we're on the front line, our surgeons treat them completely the same as our own guys. I mean, anybody that comes there, we do. But it's, you become friends, because we can't, a lot of these guys, we can't just exfil, they're injured, we end up taking care of them. I mean, we try to keep them safe, but for weeks, and so you get to know them well. And I think our doctors and our know and respect and are respected by a lot of the across the ethnic groups.
So can you kind of explain that? Because I'm like, so that we have a kind of like build a picture for the audience. So like, say you're on the front line then, and they're fighting and they get injured. Are you taking care of them kind of like triage, like right off the front line? And then do they go back to, say, further, back off, like way back? Is there like a city center then that's kind of like, even though it's exposed, or it's like a city center, is that where they can go for more help? Or, even though they might be getting bombed, I mean, like I said, it feels like there's two governments fighting each other. So,
Yeah.
you know, are there major city centers under the NUG?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know,
And the ethnic groups. The ethnic
Or
groups
the
still
ethnic
have
groups.
their own.
like little cities and towns.
I think if I understand it right, the future hope is that there's a federation composed of different states with a federal government. So the NUG would be like the federal operator, and then there'd be individual states. So Karen State would have their own government, their own state resources, as I understand. I'm getting an area that I probably shouldn't talk a lot about.
No.
Stick to medicine.
No,
But
no, it's cool. No, it's good to hear because some people want to see what is that 10,000 foot view, you know? Like,
yeah. So like in the Karen territory, I mean, I know the leaders, very qualified, dedicated people, and they take their role seriously. But they also are including like these PDF groups in their plans so that it feels very inclusive in those areas. What we do with injured people, basically, we have a CCP, casualty collection point, right near the battle line. And some of our people that we've trained, our primary, before the war, our primary mission was to train PAs. It's a 5-year PA training program, so that these guys are pretty good. And then we've taken some of the best of those and then helped them become like a surgical PA, which means they can do common surgeries. So in these remote areas, the availability of healthcare, even before the coup, was really horrific. And if you just do a spot check on different statistics and stuff, it's quite different than the rest of the country. Under 5 child mortality. I think in the U.S. it's like 4 or 5 per 1,000 deaths before you get to be 5. In Burma as a whole, it's 50. In those ethnic areas, 150 per 1,000. So that's like 15% of the kids would die before they're, and mostly half of it was from easily treated things: pneumonia being number 1, malaria, diarrhea. And so, that's where our focus was, teaching our PAs to be able to competently address those. And I think we've done that. But also there's all kinds of other medical needs, like the same thing with women's childbirth. You'd have, I think the maternal mortality, I think, is 14 per 100,000 women die in childbirth. There as a country, it's I think it was 200. I'm forgetting my numbers. 200, but in the jungle areas it's like 720.
Oh wow!
So quite a bit of difference. And so part of that is training. Then getting just to be able to do a C-section. Is going to help you if somebody's got a placenta previa or eclampsia, something like that. You can manage that. Otherwise, they're not going to make it. So that's our primary mission was to teach students how to do that and to keep them in remote areas. And then the war drops in. So now those guys are doing the amputations, the chest tubes, the resuscitations out in the field. And they're good. But they will be manning the CCPs on the very front line. So, for example, one time, and your medical people are watching this will realize this. There was a guy that was hit from an aircraft, just a strafing run, and it basically took off his anterior medial thigh, including the femoral artery. Yeah. This is at midnight, and so one of our PAs was there, and actually it's the same guy I told you about initially that did the Burma, that treated the porter guy. Anyways, he ties off the artery. Okay, no anesthesia, middle of the night, tack's still going on, ties off the femoral artery, a couple of veins, gets him back to CCP, does a type and cross for a unit of blood, gives him a unit of whole blood there, and gets him back to us. We're in the hospital. We're about 4 hours away, which is only maybe 20, 30 miles. But
and what's that terrain like? I mean, it's jungle, because like every I'm working with different companies and just in
worst
warfare.
roads you ever seen in your life.
Yeah, and like
worse than Afghanistan, worse than Pakistan.
Because these are like, is it like mountain jungle? Is it like jungle? And so it's like,
yeah.
You
Both.
get off that road, you're not moving. So the road is your only
The
That's it.
Kren, they can do anything.
Yeah.
But for me, I get off the road, I'm not moving. But it's pretty bad. In our trucks, a new truck will last maybe 2 years.
Really?
The engine's fine, but you just have to start rebuilding the whole undercarriage, brakes, the CV joints and everything just goes. They take bulldozers and they're making new roads through the jungle. And one of the big factors is rainy season. It starts May through maybe October, and all those roads that they just cleared now have got big gullies through them, and washed out landslides. Because we're open all year round, we try to front end load our supplies, but then we're moving by motorcycle, or if a really bad day, we get the students to carry stuff, but it'll take them a few days to carry stuff.
And it's getting the supplies in for as much you guys doing, like, I don't say how's the rat lines or and whatnot, but how is that? I mean, and how big of the stuff you kind of moving? Like I said, is it coming on your back, or are you guys doing like trucks, or you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes
all of the above.
All the above. Okay.
Yep. So we'll move stuff in trucks. We're seeing about 1,000 patients at our main center per month, and then doing. I think last year we did close to 600 surgeries for the whole year. But our graduates, we've got 30 graduates. We did a sampling of them for 1 month. They're probably seeing like 40,000. Now they're under the Karen Department of Health and Welfare. That's the Karen have their own structure with their own health department, and then so when they go to graduate from our program, they owe that 5 years as well. So it's a 10-year commitment.
So, and that's the thing is that I love. It's cool hearing that because this isn't like I always think of like what we did in Afghanistan. It's like give a hip pocket class for like 2 weeks and like you're a PA now, or something.
Because we didn't want to do that.
Yeah, like this is like legit. Even like when you even said the Karen have their own health department. I mean, that in my mind, I'm like, this is more than just a rebel group. This is more than
for sure.
Like what we're thinking.
It's their people, and they're trying to raise funds for their medicines and. So when our graduates are after the graduation, then they owe 5 more years with them, and we make that really formal agreement.
That's awesome. So, and again, kind of thinking about it, is the Karen Department of Health or like the government or the NUG, are they getting any outside backing? Like other countries, or like again. I would look at a map just to see hey, how is people getting in, and
I don't know where all the finance is coming from. I think recently with USAID dropping off, none of it's coming from U.S. government that I know of. I think there's a lot of people who've fled Burma over the last decades who are still sending supplies and money to people. So I know that's one route. I actually don't know where a lot of things. People are concerned about their own homeland.
I totally get that. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a 1776 kind of
yeah
mentality out there.
Yeah, it's really and I think that may be actually one of the reasons why other countries are not involved is that this is seen as nobody's crossed a border yet. The conflict hasn't spread across the border, so it's an internal. Civil war, and people don't want to get involved with that, except seems like China, and they don't want the conflict by their borders either, just like we wouldn't be concerned as well. So I think that's one problem, and people are internally, I'd say they have a lot that mentality where, it's up to us. We got to do what we got to do. We'd really love to have some help doing it, but if not, it's not going to slow us down. We're not stopping, and I don't think they're going to stop until it's done.
Well, it feels like, just from what you've told me, and what we've talked about, like they're losing ground, and then and if we think of even with us in the GWAT, then we still learn something. When it comes to counterinsurgency, or even say Vietnam, if the locals are teaming up, you're not keeping that ground. So that you do whatever offensive you want.
Yeah.
They're retaking it in time.
Yeah.
So, and if they're losing, like you said, those bases from prior years where there was an agreement or there was a little bit more support for the military government. Now that's gone.
That's
those
gone.
bases are shrinking.
That's exactly what's going on.
And is there certain cities then that the government operates out of that like
they
get
still
stranglehold?
control a lot of the main cities
Main
actually.
cities, okay, yeah.
And in fact, that's a interesting. It's why we started doing our frontline facility. Was this was when was this 2023, like December. There was a 14-year-old girl that was hit in an airstrike, and she was on the planes. Within 2.5 hours, there was like 7 or 8 major hospitals in big cities, but they're all controlled by the Burma Army. With 2.5 hours, 14-year-old girl, she had a tourniquet on, and instead her family brings her 4 days to us in the jungle. And we got like 25 beds, I mean, nothing compared to what is there. They're too afraid to go into the big cities controlled by them. They would rather keep the tourniquet on their teenage daughter and bring her to us than they would that. And that shows you the level of desperation. And we thought, they talk in trauma, they talk about the golden hour, not the golden week.
Yeah.
And so we decided, hey, we can do better if we move facility a little bit closer. So we did that, and we would get things. The first place that we set up, there was a kid had stepped on a 19-year-old guy had stepped on a landmine, and we lost him. We did everything. We gave him like 10 units of blood, antibiotics, operated on him, couldn't save him. But the next 2 cases were obstructed labor cases. So if you imagine your wife's in labor, she's been in labor for 2 days, and your best option is to take her over to that tarp over in the edge of a field. That's your best option. That's pretty desperate. That you won't take her in. You're too afraid to take her into the hospitals So, that's a pretty common story. They still control the bigger cities, but people largely control a lot of the rural areas.
And what's that kind of ratio then? Like, say, controlled territory over a big city. I mean, obviously, I know there's more population in the big cities, but like, what is that kind of ratio? I mean, it's like, do you step outside the city and now it's like, all right, now you're in NUG or
just resistance territory,
or because that's what, and that is pretty wild that you wouldn't want to go into the city 2 hours. I mean, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it does.
And also, who's in those cities still? Is that military? Is that obviously sports? Or there's people that can't get out? Is there a network?
There's people that haven't left for one reason or another. They started doing a conscription, and then a lot of the young people left after that, or they get conscripted. So again, things getting more and more desperate. And I would say it works both ways. I read about in the papers where, some military officers or they've renamed themselves SAC. So SAC administrators are having tea, somebody comes to drive-by shooting or something. So it's just even in the cities, it's becoming not safe for these guys. But they still control a lot of the big cities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've seen that actually today. I think I saw a post about that. There was like a raid, and it's all either hitting the officers or whoever, like in the cities.
Yeah.
They're doing ambushes and stuff
Yeah.
like that, which
Yeah.
is very dangerous. I mean, that's if you can't hide, or if you're not safe.
the other side of that probably, right?
Yeah. I don't know how that is. Yeah, if you're just like, we're just gonna get tea, and then you're getting lit up.
Bam,
Yeah, that's wild. And that's what I was kind of curious on. You feel that the ball is running in the right direction, but it's like how long sustained.
I don't know. That again, China's another. I don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why they're supporting the military. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Other than they do have some assets in. I know there's a pipeline that goes through somewhere, and maybe they're protecting that. But it seems like ethnics are willing to talk.
Yeah, they're like, hey, give us a shot.
Give them a shot at least.
Yeah,
I mean, you're backing the wrong horse.
That's what. So then, I mean, it's incredible. So then, how often are you there and working on the front line? And
so I'm maybe inside the jungle a third of my time, and other times I'm back here telling people about it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes doing admin. About a third time doing admin. admin work, just trying to coordinate programs and making it better and efficient.
Have you seen an uptick then in people finding out about the war recently, or any
Since
kind of
the earthquake? Yeah.
Since the earthquake? And when was the earthquake? Was that like or how long ago was that?
I can't remember. I was in the air flying to Australia at the time. I should remember. If my wife was here, she could tell you.
And so that was a significant event.
It was. It brought the world's media to bear on Burma, and then a lot of this comes out during that. And also, as I said before, any kind of relief, the typical relief agencies went to the government, only discover that, yeah, they got used. So, and read about, earthquake workers getting conscripted, or, materials not getting to the people that they're given for, things like that.
Okay.
We didn't, during the earthquake, our structures, we're just in bamboo and wood, and so they do great in earthquakes. It's the fancy cement places that you have to worry about.
That's pretty wild. So then,
What about one of your guys who thought it was?
The surgeon that was operating in our OR at the time, and he said, I thought it just was another airstrike. Okay, we actually haven't been hit, but
that's awesome. Have you seen an uptick at all of Western volunteers kind of heading your guys' direction by any chance?
not a lot. There's a couple groups, like I said, mentioned Free Burma Rangers, and there's a Stronghold. Do you know?
Yeah, Stronghold Rescue. What's his name? Ephraim. That's what I always keep forgetting his name.
They do a great job with ambulance services, running ambulance. So and I'm on their feed, their signal feed, so I see all the stuff that they're bringing to us, but also just helping move patients. Anybody that, women and children, military people, anybody that needs help, they're moving them. So they're doing a good job.
And that still seems like a pretty, like, I shouldn't say desperate need, but it's still like a need for.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, some of the relief agencies I think I talked to, it's like, I kind of wonder, what are you going to do after the war? And it's like, our job's just starting. If the war goes away, we're just starting to try to move healthcare into these. It's just more like family for me. It's people and friends, and it's becomes your band of brothers that you're with these guys in the front line, literally in the trenches, and yeah, you do a lot. I think I watched your podcast on your firefight. It's like you said, what was your line? The pile of brass. If I end here, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah.
And it's like that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. No, that's, and I like I said, it's awesome, hearing you speak about it, because it's like, especially when it comes to like medical has always been, I always admired the medical side, because that's when you get shot, that's when things really start to, count. Like, okay, hey, if you can get them off the X, we can work with them.
Yeah.
And in my own personal experience, I always liked knowing. I don't know a ton, but I want to know enough. Like I was really good at IVs. I could do tourniquets really well. I could do sucking chest wounds. We could do anything we knew to get you back to the CCP.
Keep you alive.
Keep you alive. Like that much helps. In the fight.
I think the one thing that's different is that this has been going on for 4 years, and people are getting tired. They don't have breaks. They can't get them out. It's like 4 years constant. So, the surgeons are tired of amputating big legs that are healthy and young, and, it adds up.
And those mostly from the fighters, or are these also like civilians?
Both,
I mean, like,
both.
Is there like a ratio? Like, is it more fighters?
It's more fighters because they step on landmines or get hit by the, airstrikes. But, like one of the last times in it, we had a 4-year-old girl. They were in a village far from the fighting. There's no strategic value to it. There's no soldiers nearby, no trade routes going through their village, just subsistence farmers. And she was, I think mom was Catholic and dad was Buddhist, I think. They were just sitting down to eat supper at 5 o'clock, and then their house blows up. It took them a while to figure out what was going on. They just, the jet came over. They all run out of the house, realized the house on fire, the whole village is on fire. One of the guys I talked to had the presence of mind to realize the jets turn around and make another run. By that time, they hit the jungle. they realized their 4-year-old kid was injured severely. So the uncle wraps her up in a blanket. Now it's dark, and he's on a motorcycle going through these horrendous roads, takes her to the river. Our guys had heard it and heard on the civilian radio system that there were injuries, so they sent a truck. They meet up. The native rumor mill is great, how the information can pass. I had no idea how that works, but it's like they meet up.
Yeah.
And he realized her intestines are coming out from under her shirt.
Yeah.
So our PA then puts saline gauze and plastic and gives her starts IV in her leg, IV antibiotics, gives her a little tramadol. It's not fentanyl like you guys got her. This is like a little bit of 10% of morphine maybe. And then she's 4 hours in the back of the truck to us. That's on these roads, it's kind of like I tell people, it's like you've seen those in bars. You'll have those bull riding things, things like being on one of those inside a steel cage on the road. Mm-hmm. It's like your head's hitting the windshield, head's hitting the glass, head's hitting the dashboard. She's in the back, which is like 10 times worth, was the evisceration. I just can't imagine the pain that she endured. Got to us about 1 a.m. And so everybody gets up and we operate all night on her. She does well, and we have a pretty good capacity. We can, do X-rays, ultrasound, resuscitations, general surgery, and then. But by morning, the rest of the village is starting to come, and they aren't as hurt as badly. One kid was, but the rest of them were coming in, and so it's just taking care of this village that had no idea they were under threat, no real strategic value. They just get hit, and they can't tell you why things happen. So it's just, you start seeing it starts turning really black and white to me. I know there's a lot of wars have politics involved, and the big 10,000-foot picture, I'm sure there's explanations, but I don't see it. Not when you're taking care of a 5-year-old girl that just got eviscerated from an airstrike.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that. I won't say skews your view on it, but it's like you know where you're at.
If you got your hands on that, it does.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm very proud of our guys, though. I still see that giving is our dignity. I still see that spirit come across and come out in countless different ways. Actually, Luke mentioned one earlier. One of the MOs of the military is if the Karen take a base, the military comes in and bombs everything. Even their own soldiers are there, or their families of the soldiers are there. And I've got a video where our guys are taking the enemy's family, the wife and the kids, and putting them in their own bunkers for their own safety. And I'm very proud of that. Yeah. That these guys still have that humanity, that service and mentality. And,
well, I imagine that probably goes a long way too. Like it's more than just like. It's definitely humanity and dignity, but when you're in a fight like that, like in a civil war, like they're gonna be like, you just saved my family. Like even if they're not friendly to you, they might be like, what? Maybe I'll just play neutral.
Maybe, yeah.
Even if you're decided, I'm not gonna join you, but I'll just let you be.
A lot more people are surrendering or giving up, coming across with arms, and
Yeah, you don't be at a coffee shop and get lit up with AKs. It's not fun.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, that's probably not on the good. It's not an end you want to be on.
No,
that's insane. So, I mean, like I said, it sounds like you guys are doing incredible stuff. Like, like say you're doing admin now. How is that the reach? Like you guys use social media? Is it like how I'm saying like
our social media director is right here.
Right. Well, he's doing a good job because I'm hearing more about it.
Yeah. We try to put out stories by email. People can go to our website, earthdeathsmission.org. But again, I think one of the things we try to portray is there's more here than just a war. Mm-hmm. There's the war going on, and that's a huge thing. But these are students who are learning. These are people with other life experiences, and try to show the full picture of that and share that. Because these guys come from a super cool culture, and
well, like I said, I think it's more like in our group of guys. we chase the dragon, we chase the adrenaline, you chase the combat. You're always looking. You want to keep, you want to do the right thing. Like you see a lot of our generation fighting in Ukraine. Like I know a ton of guys.
Right, and why?
Because they want to do right. They want to
do the right thing.
They
and
want
I
to
think
help. They want to fight for someone else's freedom or fight. They believe in the cause. I'm biased. I believe in the cause. I've been to Ukraine a few times, and so you get that, and it's like what you guys are doing is more than just. I feel like it's more than that because you're actually, like I said, finding out you guys are training the PAs. Like this is a 5-year program.
Yeah,
This is like you're in it for
We're past
life.
the adrenaline.
Yeah, you're past the adrenaline. Because if you ever get on the other side of it, and hopefully they do. Now it's like the real challenge starts. Now you build the roads.
Exactly.
Now you build the hospitals. Now
the
there's
whole health system.
the whole health system. And it's like, that almost feels like it's like it feels like if you ever get to that, hopefully you get to that point when then it feels like, man, that's awesome. And now we even keep going harder.
Exactly.
You have access to everyone. It's a different feeling. Like I know a lot of guys are feeling not so much like that in Ukraine. It always feels like because of the attrition, it's two big governments fighting. They're for the cause, but they're not a cog in the machine. But you know what I mean? Like they're starting to feel the grind.
You're
of
losing
it.
the personal touch.
They're like when I was there in the first 3 weeks of the war to what it is now are two different feelings that people have. But whereas like with you guys, it's you're training and you're helping people in the medical side, and it's incredible. And now there's a Civil War aspect going on, but then it's like, well, our actual the mission next is the next mission is
they become family,
system.
and it's just, okay. Your family's just now in a war, and so you stick with them, and then you hope for one day. I read a article by the chaplain of the Ukraine army. It's a Jesuit guy, and he said he lost many friends, but one of his things that struck me was, he says, my biggest job is to be a witness to hope. And I think that's a really good, I think when people are in those settings and they see you guys come in and help, that's just a little bit of hope that it's not hopeless. And I think that's really important to people in the trenches, especially when it's been going on for a few years and it's getting really old and people are getting tired and they've lost a lot. And I think that hope is so important. And I wouldn't belittle the adrenaline either. I think that guys that come into those settings, for whatever reason you come into, I just encourage you to take the next step, is like get to know people on the ground, get to spend time with the 5-year-old and the grandma, or and realize these are people too. They're just like and at least in my experience with the Kren, is your heart starts beating with theirs, and you want to do everything you can, and like you said, if it's okay, if I go, then it's all right. You're doing some
say like a worthy cause, like it's something that it's worth dying for. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so teaming up with say Free Burma Rangers and Stronghold, how has that been in like the last? Were they? I know Free Burma Rangers had been around, but Stronghold and like are you guys are, say, the medical side for sure, but I think they're a bit more than the aggressive
I don't
tactics.
know. They can get them on here and you can ask them what else they're doing. From my perspective, they're doing a good job.
No, absolutely. I was saying, like, what's that dynamic like? You guys all working together over there. Just in general.
I mean, we use anybody that's willing to help.
Yeah.
And that's been a good interaction, I think.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We are just strictly medical, and they may look at us as on the wimpy side, but
no, not at all. No, you guys are
what we got.
Yeah, you guys are on the important side when shit goes wrong for them.
That's true. That's true. Then we become very popular.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, real quick. Yeah, best friends real fast. Though that's awesome. So then we were kind of talked about that before. We talk about, which is your faith in all of this, and you want to emphasize that or talk about like, kind of like this is why you're doing this, you're calling from early on and all that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I like to tell people is, okay, this part is like, just go back and read what Jesus said, you know, and he's all the time, he's talking about helping others in times of need, whether that's the parable of the Good Samaritan, you know, I don't know what your religious background is.
Lutheran, yeah.
Lutheran you know that one then,
oh, yeah,
Samaritan?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah,
you got that
yeah,
far.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
good. And then there's once he tells this parable of the sheep and the goats, and basically saying to the one group, whatever you did to the least of these, you did to me. So if you took care of the sick, visited ones in prison, fed the hungry, you know, clothed the naked, you did it to me, and welcome into my kingdom. And if you didn't do it, see you later. You know, you're condemned for it. And I don't think it's actually meant to be a thing of merit, like in a Muslim setting, it would be you earn your way into heaven. I don't think it's that, but I think that's how you learn who the real Jesus is. I think part of the problem with the American, at least my interpretation, a lot of it is just a cerebral theology up here. It doesn't come out in your hands and your feet and putting yourself on the line for somebody else. And it doesn't have to be in a war zone. It can be somebody right here in town. And we saw that in the emergency room all the time. Just there's so many people in need, and reaching out to those, but crossing, you're always going to be crossing lines. Somebody different on the other side, reach out to them, help them. And that's how you get to know the real Jesus. And I think that's what it really means to be a Christian of faith, is to have that combination of theology, but also working that out in the day to day. And you start realizing that fills your life with purpose and meaning. And I saw some of your podcasts, and almost everybody talks about eventually why they like what they're doing is because it gives their life some meaning or purpose. And I think that's true for all of us as humans, that we're all kind of searching for that, but we get so distracted or caught up in the rat race or something. But getting back to that, and I think that's what Jesus meant. There, I don't know if you've seen the movie To End All Wars.
It sounds familiar. I don't know.
It's Kiefer Sutherland. It was actually based on a story from World War II, The Bridge Over the River Kwai.
Okay.
But it's written. The book is written by Ernest Gordon, who was I think a chaplain for Harvard for a while. But he talks about, he was in basically a prisoner of war while they're building this railroad through Burma. And the stuff that they learned coming out of that. And I read one of his lines was something like, our lives are not, the goal of our life is not just to survive, it's to learn how to love others. And they realized that there, and they had a way of doing it. It's a pretty powerful story. It's a good, I see your books, and you ought to add that one to End All Wars by Ernest Gordon. Because I think that's kind of what you start learning here. If once you get past, but you got to go past the tourist level, you know. And I think the military guys do go past that. But then you got to go past that and get to know people and that you're working around, and that's hard in some of those settings, obviously. But for us, that's our lifeline, and they become family, and then learning to love and. There's another movie. I know you're into movies, but the Magnificent Seven. Oh yeah. The new one, Denzel Washington, and there's a line where the character Horn talks. He says there's 6 of them. The Ethan Hawke's guy is taken off because of his PTSD, and Denzel Washington's asking everybody, "Well, what do you want to do?" And the Horn character says something like, "Well, serving others with men you respect shouldn't have to ask for more than that." And they all kind of sit around and nod, and, then off they go. You know, but I think that really hits home to me. Is we're with these guys serving others, and you see a part of your faith really worked out that is meaningful and adds meaning and purpose to your life. And I really, I'm 66 years old, and I get to do this. It's really a cool thing.
Yeah, and it's amazing too, because I'm with you with that, especially like finding purpose. I think a lot of us in the military, like especially that fought in the war, finding purpose. We're trying to earn, in my case and a few others are like, hey, we want to be part of the warrior culture, but I think for me the big one was even in Iraq when we were doing stuff, you're still fighting for like a cause even at some level. And for some of us on the ground, it was like we got to interact with the people. I think some of the misconceptions is we just went on patrol, got into firefights, and went home. But we were in people's houses all the time. We were always talking with them. We were buying the bread off them because we were sick of MREs, and they were, we'd talk with the kids, and we would, and just interact.
Or even the translators.
Yeah. And then in the when I went to Afghanistan, that's when I was a combat advisor. So I lived, breathed everything with the Afghan army, and then we were in the valleys with the people doing humanitarian aid, but we got to know people like in the Sorobi district and in the valleys, and you just kind of you get into that world, and I think I agree with you. I think finding that purpose and guys are chasing the adrenaline, but I like I said, it's
whatever gets you there.
Yeah, whatever gets you there, and but when it comes to like even the medical stuff, like being able to do something when no one else can. I feel like that's also like, like you going.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like being able to help and and I agree with you. I think going past the tourism aspect, that does help people. I mean, they're like, and I know a lot of people kind of crack jokes about even with kids going and building houses and, in Central America,
okay.
but
it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay because those kids are going to be like, I built a house. Like,
I saw a different culture.
Exactly.
Hey, those people got problems just like me.
Yep.
And I actually think God gives us grace in those settings to realize, hey, I can be more empathetic with that person.
Absolutely.
And I wish from a political standpoint that we could all realize that. And there are real issues that we need to talk about, border issues and stuff. And I don't know the answers to that, except that these are real people. We need to talk about it because there's real issues there. Both sides need to get together. And if democracy is going to survive, I think it's key that we start thinking like that.
Yeah. And I agree with you too, is like when the community, like growing your community a bit more, and people talk about that when they, like even how we are in our own homes, like we are not multi-generational families, or
it's a weakness.
And then even the neighborhoods, like, do you talk with your neighbor, or do you know who you are? And like even growing up, we didn't talk to everybody, but we knew who they were.
Yep.
I remember my parents talking with them all the time, or like we knew the neighbor kids, and and all this other stuff, and everybody comments on it. Like it's like they just don't know their neighbor very well, and then you start seeing other cultures coming in. We have an Indian neighborhood. The families together, and they run in packs. Kids, and you see the families and as they get out at this housing complex, or actually housing, but like these condos, and but it's a group, because you can tell they're like, oh, this is the Indian kid, and then they, obviously they find each other, and they have their community, and I agree with you. You don't see it as much in the U.S. culture if you're.
And sometimes it's hard. Communities, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
It means you go to your neighbor's kids' talent show for 4 hours and sit there, and you're like, you could be wishing I could be doing something else. And sometimes it's painful. In Karen tradition, what they'll have is a Thanksgiving service where one family, one house will have a meal, butcher a pig or something, and often have a devotional, like a church service, and the morning and after that they feed everybody. Well, they don't have a lot of electricity or refrigeration, so there's no way for them to preserve a larger animal. So they just divide it up and give it to the neighbors. And then it's not regimented, but then next week somebody else will do it, and it's a very great way of communicating and communion with your neighbors. And all of life is like that. If the rice crops fail, and since I've been there, they've failed for multiple reasons. Too much rain, not enough rain, rats. There was one year where there was apparently the bamboo flowers every 50 years, and the rats are usually controlled by the amount of food available. And they produces a little pine nut, and just went crazy and multiplied. And just see fields full of rats, because once the pine nuts go away, they just go to start eating the rice fields, and but the whole community then is now at risk because they don't have any food. So you stick together and work your way through it.
Yeah. Like I said, that's cool, because I've talked with Amanda here, and I've talked with my last guest too. It's like, not being, it's a kind of a different subject, but not being self-reliant. But all self-reliant also is your community. You know, it can be, doesn't mean that you're the ultimate prepper and that's it. It's
Correct.
just self-reliant on what you can do. But if your neighbor's self-reliant, know what you can do, you can then work together. You have crops, or I have some meat, or you have chicken, or you have, because you turn this power grid off, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing.
Yep, exactly.
You got about 96 hours so people go feral, and it's going to get nasty real fast.
Yep.
And the irony is, too, is like so you look at the Karen people, and you're like, oh, yeah, they survived just great. Or like Afghans or Iraqis are like, oh, they're fine. Like the power grid goes, oh, they're good for they're fine. Here, you're like, I guess this society will fall. I guess democracy's over. Or you know what I mean? Like, because the power grid went down for it. And it is. I mean, it can go, especially if it goes down all at once. We can at least come in and help. But if something went down in a mass area, it's
that's
not good.
one of the things I appreciate about Sebastian Younger's book, Tribe, was just he brings also in like World War II, East London. I guess they thought crime would eat people in the underground, or in the bomb shelter, so they put them in underground. And they found during the Blitz no crime at all down there because people bonded together. So they, there was this thinking like this is going to be a very bad situation. This crime's going to kill everybody off. And people bonded together. And I think we'd be surprised. It's interesting that I think COVID, when it came, isolated us into the exact opposite of that, where we're split up into individual units and really damaged our community aspect. And I think we're much weaker for that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I
with
think
you.
we somehow have to figure out how to get back to a more community-orientated society. And it probably will happen slowly, but I think even if it happens quickly, like the power grid goes down, I have hope that
you're a little hopeful than I am. Which is good. Yeah.
No, I've been on the other side in Pakistan. We would have times when because of the sectarian violence, they would put curfews on, and the government also knew that if more than about a week, people are going to start getting hungry, and then it's a different level of problems. But they'd shoot people if went out. So, but neighbors could still get together.
Yeah, we did when we went into Ukraine 3 weeks. I went in 3 weeks after the war kicked off, and that was it was we were just talking with a few buddies of mine like that officially ended COVID. Like that was like I got in that plane from Chicago, and it was just like. We got bigger problems, like it's especially rolling in like the Polish, it was a Polish airline. I can't remember what it was, probably just Polish Airways. And so we flew in, and it was just like that. You could just the hammer dropped, like you're like, yep, ball dropped. This is we're in. It's terrible because it's a war, but it was a huge unifying. Yeah. I mean, you stepped on that plane. I hadn't felt like that since 9/11. Like it was. Yeah. We're all here for one reason. The crew was like looking at us like, thank you. We know what you're doing. Because, I mean, it was like guys that looked like us or ex-military. Like, they got like some guys were rolling with like their Marine Corps backpack from boot camp. They were just like, here to help. But when we rolled in and then when we crossed that border into Lviv, you're just like, it was you're right too. It's like probably it's like the Blitz mentality. You're like, oh, this is probably going to fall apart. But then it's like you roll there and it's unity. Everyone is on the same page. Everyone was incredibly like hope was, they're, cruise missiles and stuff going on, but you're, and the invasion, but you're like, hey, this is like, we're in it together, and we're here to help. And everyone knew it was funny because you just see bands of Americans and, like in groups, like going over and they just like the Ukrainians were just like forever grateful. I mean, I had literally like, we thought we were going to make our way to Kyiv at one point. And at that time that was super hard to do. I mean, there's checkpoints, I learned, I think it's about, from Lviv, I think it was like 4 or 5 hours to Kyiv or something like that. And that's on a good day. That wasn't like during the invasion. Like I think it was like a 7.5 hour drive, like through all the checkpoints while we were there. And then when I went back, it was different. There was no checkpoints. You're like, good, I could go. But even on the highway, I think it was like 4.5 hours to Kyiv from Lviv. And, the lady, I was like, okay, we're going to do this run. So I like went, picked up a bunch of Red Bulls, snacks. It was really funny. And I was like, all right, here you go, and it was like 5 p.m. Why are you buying 9 Red Bulls at,
Yeah.
5 p.m. at night. And she just looked at me. She said, thank you. Like, and she said, good luck.
Yeah.
Like, good luck out there.
She knew what you're
Yeah,
doing.
she knew exactly what, we ended up not doing the mission, but she like knew where I'm in, like, yep,
What are you trying to do?
What we're trying to do. And, I agree with you. I think there's that, with that Blitz tribe motion, like,
You're part of the group.
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't all go to shit. It actually
comes together.
It actually comes together.
People can use that. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
What I saw in like Pakistan when those guys went to fight the Northern Alliance was they didn't have any. They only have their news was only coming from their local guy. They couldn't read and write. They didn't have any other news. Their guy told them that the Northern Alliance was raping girls and castrating boys, and so they all went out to fight. So I think it can be used too in a bad way.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I would say the media is really important to get the real story of what's going on and not just take one side of it because but then dive deep, go into the culture, get to know the people that are affected by it. And that's for me is where my faith is rewarded, I guess you would say, with that sense of purpose.
Well, you don't see it often these days. You always, we grew up, even like in the, Lutheran missionaries or Christian missionaries, and you just, I don't know, even in like, I think when people are seeing like what you're doing or volunteering or doing some real intense stuff, like, not saying it was super common back in the day, but it just feels like because of the world we live in now with social media, with all this, like, people are like, wow, you're doing that. It's just like refreshing to see. Like, you feel like, again, there's like hope, that you're seeing people, I don't know, like, I feel like it's, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, you're not seeing it as often. So when people see it, they're like, oh, all right, this is awesome.
I feel like, my ministry, my life shouldn't make sense to you unless there really was God.
Yeah.
I don't have to say a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing a little bit, I don't say like an uptrend, but like a little bit of going back to the church, of finding a purpose, and that is is a trending thing within the culture. Like when you think you're cool and you go away from it, and we saw like, myself, we have kids, and my wife comes from her father was a pastor, retired, but it's always like you kind of go away from the church a little bit, and then you always kind of come back when you're older. It's a great, exactly. It's a great base. We're like, hey, we found a church, like with kid, we need to. But I think that finding purpose, where younger people are turning more back to the church, where in the last probably 10, 15, that generation hasn't, because there's purpose there. Something bigger than you are.
Something bigger than you. Call it what you will.
Yeah, call it what you will. You can't control everything. Like, and put your faith in something.
And I think that something, actually, if you start thinking of that as a force for love, and draws you toward it, that's a really powerful idea.
Oh, 100%. I agree. And it like I said, finding purpose, and sometimes it's like I said, you guys are amazing been doing it for 30, 40 years, but some people at home, it's just like, hey man, go do this mission for 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Go
start short. Start short. Take to
know?
one step. I think when people get this idea of Christian missionaries, they see these guys that are going over, trying to convert people to the way they're thinking.
Yeah.
And they don't give any. It's not. I don't feel like that's how the way I see it. Is Jesus is calling us to serve those in need. And he's saying not go out to those people. He's saying come to where I am already working. Come serve me here. And we will end up learning more about him than we will staying in our church and in the pews. And I think for me, there's one mountaintop, but there's all kinds of ways up the mountain. And I don't know what God's telling you to do, but I think it's important from your life, for the goodness in your own life. You need to find that and listen to it and put your energy towards it. And then I think that purpose and meaning will become, if that something is the creator, then that's what he made you for. And like, I was listening to one of your podcasts with the tank guy. Your
Nate.
friend- your
Yeah, my
friend
buddy
Nate.
Nate Skinner.
Your
Yeah,
friend
he's
Nissa.
he's the chaplain's assistant. Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Chaplain
and he
Ellen
said
Hall.
something like, I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
I think he said that.
Yeah.
And I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah.
That is, it's like, now there is a force. I have different names for it than maybe you would or he would. But I think it's a force that, for love, that wants me to find the reason he made me.
Yeah, and like I said, that's powerful. I mean, I agree with you. You know, and it's awesome.
It's cool to be wrapped up in that. And
Yeah.
then, it's very, it's not always fun.
I agree. And I think, like I said, in this world when people are trying to find purpose and the social media and the mental health decline,
big time.
Yeah. You know, and by the way, people used to find, and I think that's what, obviously there's a lot of there's a few upsides to social media. There's a lot of downsides to it. I think back in people downplay or they undermine what purpose used to be like in, say, for a family. Like you're like, you know what, coming home to your kids and doing, that's incredible. Like you come home, you play with your kids. That's a calling. And it's undermined by social media. Like, why aren't you traveling to Ibiza? Why aren't you doing this? Or why aren't you doing that? Or why, you know, and I feel like people get wrapped up in it. But it's like you have your purpose in front of you every day. Like you have you drop, you know, the fact that you can pick your kids up, and we talk about this all the time, like just being a good parent, you know, and it's like, that's an amazing purpose, you know, like raising, I mean, I felt like that growing up with like my parents, like, you know, they wanted us to do better than them. They weren't social media influencers. They were just, we were lower middle class, poor. They worked their way up as we got older. And they're happy as a clam, retired now, and they go to breweries and everything. You know, it's like their purpose was to help raise us to become better humans, and like in the same.
And
you know,
you just take step by step.
Step by step, yeah.
Who knows where that's going to lead you?
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like people undermine that. So it's like we're talking about, like, not to say the extremes of finding purpose, but it's a lot. It's a commitment to go over to Pakistan or Myanmar. But not saying you have to do a year, but doing maybe a week or two, really getting in with this culture, or doing it at home. You know, like my wife always tells me, she's like, well, you don't have to be so extreme with what you do. You know, like you don't have to go to Ukraine every time. You know, we can go like feed the children and pack some bags for like a few hours.
She's got a point.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, and we've done it. She's like Finley, our daughter, and we have a son who's 1. But
and as the kids grow, maybe you include them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, or even like I said, we're gonna go. For the next hour, we're gonna pack the rice bags for feed our children, you know, or something like. They have locally, and then the local stuff and
food.
Yeah, exactly. And they send that off to like Asia or Pakistan or wherever the emergency, and people just come through, and it's like, that can be your purpose. Like that's great. Like you feel good about yourself. You did something good. You found a good purpose, and you're doing something.
Well, ultimately, I think that connects to the whole, you know, reason for our spirit and our you know, where we spend eternity.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's as we say in Gladiator, what you do in life
echoes in eternity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. That.
I love talking. I love that you love movies, and I don't know if you know this one. If you spot this one up here, this is one. Okay, so it's a tougher one. It's from The Kingdom.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do you remember the quote? Just curious, like.
No.
Sorry, Kingdom of Heaven, Ridley Scott.
No, I know the movie.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
What is a man that doesn't render the world better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a few different translations. Or what is a man that doesn't make the world better?
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah. And so it's funny, we talk about this, but this is like real, I don't say heavy subjects, but it's like film translates that. Like we joke about it, but like you take that, and like for me that's meant something since I saw it in 2005. Like that means something to me.
Yeah, and that's important.
You know, like exactly.
It keeps your focus, keeps your head in the right direction. And I think ultimately the social media thing is to do the same thing. This is like short poetry was to you know, ideally. Yeah. You know, I think so much of social media is more geared for just getting views, but when you start, you know, telling stories or trying to inspire, or I think there's real power there, and that we need it. We need those good inputs. You know, whatever is true, whatever is good, whatever, you know, think on those things. Yeah. And I think that otherwise we're just idle. your brain goes to trash.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
Yeah.
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 No, I like it. That's great. You've watched the extended version?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a complete different movie than
yeah. I've been trying to find it, but it's really hard to find, to track down. I don't know where I saw it before, but then there's there's a Blu-ray I'm trying to hunt down that I remember seeing in Best Buy like 10 years ago. And it's just, I can't find it anywhere. They do have the extended. I think you just buy the one. Actually, I might have it. I don't know. But there's one disc set that I've been trying to hunt down for years. But, yeah, exactly. It's a completely different film. It's great, too. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
But, no, yeah, I agree with you. Especially with the social media thing. I've seen that where you're scrolling. It's like really, really bad. And then you find like a quote or like a little story. Yeah. That'll like light your day up. You're like, oh man, I got to get after it. Or you're just like, that was like something you're like, that applies to my life or this motive, and it is, it's just, sometimes it's just that one thing,
It's our world.
Yeah. It's
and
crazy.
I'd say, see that, there are no consequences. Yeah. Look at that and say, okay, I'm going to think on that for a while.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's so, like I said, we're kind of moving forward now. What's the, I want to say what's the, not the end goal by any means, but what, how can people like help out? Where do you, I know you're doing like Luke's handling social media. Is there like a bigger, I'll say bigger push, but are you guys looking to do some more moves to help?
Our focus is still just on the training. Okay. We want to train basic healthcare people. We hope to have a surgical aspect to that. We've started a internal medicine specialty training program, and as this is a kind of a World War II moment for Burma, I think, where afterwards they're gonna have to rebuild everything, the infrastructure, roads, bridges, electrical grid, communication lines, systems like education system, healthcare system. So I hope as we go into reconstruction phase that we can be part of that healthcare system. And I tell my guys, I say, because what they'll do is they're looking at trying to get some ideas on paper for those systems, and they'll ask ChatGPT, how does federal medical system interact with a state medical system? And of course they're going to get a Western model. And I say, no, don't. It's okay, start there, but don't. We got tons of problems with our medical system. Don't take that as your golden example. Come up with a new one yourselves. Use your culture. Your culture values giving. That is your dignity. Incorporate that into your medical system somehow. So in trying to encouraging them to, I don't know what they're going to come up with. I feel honored to be able to encourage them to do that. And to stand with them in that struggle to figure out, because they don't have enough resources. But it's a real, I think, going to be an important part, maybe for more than just Burma. Maybe they can come up with something that's an example for Southeast Asia. I don't think anybody else has PA programs, for example. Maybe that would be a good, having this middle level provider available for remote areas, especially. Healthcare in remote areas is a problem all over the world. If they can come up with some way to keep people engaged in remote areas, then it would be a major model.
Yeah. Well, they're doing everything with nothing right now, and so it's. I feel like it's like you said, like even the way you did in Pakistan, you're like, hey, in the U.S. those cataract surgeries cost God knows how much with insurance, all this, and you're like, we did it for $100.
Yeah.
And like truly did it for $100. Like
everything.
Everything. Like truly, it wasn't like we got. I mean, you have funds or fundraising, but it's like the material. It actually costs.
Our funds then went for capital.
Yeah,
we'd buy the microscope or the building or something, but our operational funds were all covered by that.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, boom, that was $100. And so what they're doing in Burma, you're like this. So this could be somewhat scalable, to a certain aspect.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
maybe.
Like, hey. Once the war ends, then that's when like the real, that's when the real.
I do worry about, typically when you see wars ending, then you get all the big companies, big relief agencies coming in with their standards, driving things. And I hope that they can still keep some of their own voice.
Do you talk with some of the leaders then? Like,
Yeah.
say in the end, like, hey, like some of the top dogs too that are like,
In
hey,
Karen, not so much in UG.
Okay.
But I have contacts that to talk with them.
Yeah, because it feels like if they're prepping, or say, the war does end, there's already like, hey, we understand, like being able to control that as they come in, because you're right, they're going to come in and be like, well, this and this and this, and there's strings attached or whatever. It's like, no, we're the government now.
Yeah.
We'll control how we bring this in, and our people, and and and
Ideally,
and like you said, even if you guys just fix the roads, I mean, it just sounds like the roads, like, what I mean? Like, we did that in Afghanistan a little bit. It was like, we built a road into a valley, and you're like, well, that changes the whole world. Like, all right,
absolutely,
like,
absolutely,
just
does.
build a road that's not shit and rock and roll,
no, absolutely does.
Yeah.
Then we can start seeing car crashes
and you start,
instead of landmines. Problems.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like building
but then getting immunization systems, or I mean, we still lose people. People here that I know there's a big issue on immunizations, but they don't see what I see. There is none.
Yeah.
So kids are dying from measles or pertussis. Just horrific problems.
I mean, after you have kids, like it's like,
geez.
God, you have a kid, you're like, what's wrong with them? They get like a fever, and you're like, what's wrong? And I've been there, and like my daughter's had the fever, they get it. It's like, all right, come
they're gonna die or what?
Yeah, exactly.
They got meningitis or
exactly, meningitis, and or how was it? Oh, wow, I should know this one better. My wife knows all this stuff. RSV, is that RSV the lung? You're like, they got RSV. They were like sounding kind of croupy. What do they do? Like, you're like, second one around, you're like, they're fine.
Well, and life, honestly, life is not easy. There's people that do have, young people that do have problems.
100%,
aren't going to get better. And but again, I go back to the community. That's when you need the strength of a community to get through those things. If you can't function, then your neighbor can come over and watch the kids while you take care of something. It just, that community aspect of life, I think, is really important for us to understand as a country, that we need to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just isolated. It's just like COVID magnified. We just get more and more weaker and fighting amongst ourselves, and we can't meet our own needs.
Yeah. So, and I'm curious, because we're in Minnesota now. The Karen people, like, is there just community spread throughout like the U.S. and is Minnesota just happening? I know we have a big Hmong population. I know.
You have a big Karen
population too.
In St. Paul.
St. Paul, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, maybe it was. Hmong is different than Karen, correct? I don't want to be somebody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. They're like,
Yeah.
they're the same. Like yelling at me online.
Yeah. Right. No, I don't know much about Hmong.
Yeah. We have a pretty that I know of. I mean, we and whatnot. But the Karen population, I didn't know we had when you guys were coming. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, cool.
But then I'll talk to anybody that listens. So doesn't mean if there's one Karen guy here, I'd come talk to him.
Yeah. That's awesome. So did they immigrate here, or refugees, or what's
Refugee,
kind of okay.
And they're fairly well liked because they were on the other side of the world to get here. They had to go through all the proper channels. They're hardworking, honest. First, I'm big fan. So I'm probably not the guy to ask, but
no, there was a kid. We called him. His last name was Oo. Or double O. So we called him Double Up Buck, or Double Up Buck, for like shotgun round. And he was a National Guard kid, super smart. He was my private. I don't know why he ended up going. He wanted to do like cybersecurity, and then like put him in the infantry. And then I was like, what? This one, the recruiter sold him or whatever, got him in that way. But he was a refugee, came in through Thailand, and I'm gonna butcher this. I don't know if he was Burmese or if it was Laos or Cambodia. I might be wrong. I don't know if Cambodia has refugee. They have a refugee program, or
there's other things going on in that side of the country. But if his name was it seems like that would be a Burmese.
It might
in the Thai.
It might be
in Thai side. Yeah.
He was Thai refugee, or he said they got over. He was a Thai refugee, or in Thailand, but he was a refugee refugee camp in Thailand, and then his grandparents or his grandmother or his aunt won the lottery, the refugee lottery, and then he came over and his parents stayed, and so then and it's amazing too because He's like
contributed to
it's
society, integrated.
Oh, he crushed. He was like talking about they like all worked, and then they bought the house like in cash.
Oh yeah.
So they like worked for. It was like you bought your whole house, and he's like, well, it's my uncle, my grandma, my sister, me, and like aunt. And they all like, you know, they went to school, they all worked, and then they bought the house. And then it was like, he's like,
it's old school American.
Old school, and he's just like, okay, and he's like, and then they were like, his parents are like, they're still there. He goes and visits every once in a while, but they're like, you're going with your grandparents. You're going to America. You're not staying here. So it was an incredible story, you know. And he was the nicest, smart kid. He was awesome. And one of the best soldiers I ever had. And but
walk your socks off.
What's that?
Could he walk?
You probably Well, we were at division headquarters, so there was no infantry involved. I was it was a desk job. That's what right here. Yeah, but he was smart. He was big into crypto, big all into that stuff. You know, was making money off crypto and Anyways,
well integrated.
Oh yeah, well integrated. Yeah. And he's like, he made like 10 grand off Doge. I think. It was hilarious.
Better than me.
Yeah. So he was, but I knew we had. I knew he had, you know, the Hmong population, but I'm pretty sure he might have been Burmese. But it was incredible hearing that story, you know. And then he's like, we're just working our ass off, you know, making it work, you know. And so it was kind of like, oh man, you know, that's awesome. And they put their head down and they.
Well, when you just go back and read history, I mean, that's kind of what. The way we used to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because my parents come from the like German. And then
background.
German Lutheran, you know. So we're German Lutheran here. And my grandma's like, well, she's passed now, but you know, she was like 90 something, but she was the hardcore German Lutheran, you know. It was the Catholics and the Lutherans. She's like, those Catholics, you know. It was funny, you know. You have like the Shia, Sunni. It's like Lutheran and Catholics.
And the closer you are, the worse it is.
Yeah, they were like in their own neighborhoods, you know, and like they were like, no, you don't date Catholic girls, you know, or Catholic boys, and it's a big deal if they did. You know, it's hilarious and stuff like that. We're like, what, you know? Nice. But anyways, I agree, and that's pretty cool that there's a Karen population here in Minnesota. So what's your guys' like next move then, or what's your you going to another state, or are you going to?
So actually there's a church in Ireland that supports us, so we get to go over there and talk to them. Awesome. And they've been really engaging. I think they get conflict in society. You know, they talk about the troubles and I have a lecture there to do on the fragility of healthcare in conflict areas. Oh, wow. So I'll talk a little bit about that, especially concerning maternal child health care.
Yeah.
But then the church has just been really welcoming, and we get a couple days break there, so travel around a little bit, see a little bit of Ireland.
Yeah, Ireland's amazing. We took our daughter there. She was 1.
Music,
it's amazing. Yeah. We just did Scotland in May.
Okay.
Scotland's, to me, the castles are way better. The terrain and the mountains are gorgeous. Like I think that the landscape's more beautiful in Scotland, and the castles they're intact. Really cool.
More beauty than Ireland.
Okay. So Ireland, the landscapes are beautiful, but to me, I'm more of a mountainous guy, so I think Scotland was a little more beautiful. But Irish culture, I might get some shit for this, but it's a lot more fun. It was like the music, every pub. You know, and it's just like it's all you know, and they know where their bread's buttered. It's tourist land, you know, like it's you know, one of their main economies is tourism, but every pub is a blast. You go in, they'll play music eventually. Scotland didn't have like anything. Like there's nothing. Like we were like, I bet the pubs.
I've got friends in Scotland and Ireland, so I'm not going to comment about.
Maybe they're like, you went to the wrong spot, but I was like, I guess we had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, so we weren't exactly like. We were trying to look for it, you know, because we did it with my daughter when she was 1. We just like put the earmuffs on her and we'd go listen to like the live bands, and like it was So Ireland to me it's a lot of fun. Like it's fun. It's a little more, I don't say welcoming, but it feels like you're a little bit more. You walk into a pub, someone might say something to you. It's all good, you know. It's fun.
Well, I had an Irish. One of the guys told me, he said, if they're completely nice to you, means they don't like you. So,
I think that might have been it.
So if they're taking a little bit
out
on you, then it means you're good. You're accepted.
That's good, But it's a little more fun. So you guys will have a blast. I don't know which part region, but
Northern Ireland.
Oh yeah. It'll be good.
But then we come back, and then we'll head back.
Okay.
Head back to Asia.
How long are you there for then? Or so like, is that like in
Just a few
August,
weeks.
September?
Just a few weeks, and then we'll head back by, we'd just try to be back in Asia probably, September, 1st of September, middle of August, somewhere.
So like after monsoon season per se, or
that's where we're headed.
Okay.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Gearing up.
Geared up. Yeah.
I've gone into the monsoon, but man, it's painful.
Yeah, I was talking to Luke over here, who's just off camera, and I was like, hey, let's go. A few months ago, we're like, oh, okay, we got this interest to go, possibly film it. And he's like, yeah, I think we can go in June. I'm like, oh, great. Let's start planning. He's like, let me check. I think monsoon season's like a month or something. And I was like, cool. And then I look and I Google monsoon season. Like, okay, we got to plane tickets.
May,
it was like
October.
Yeah, into October. I was like, what? And I texted him. He's like, oh yeah, we won't do anything till January. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I got 8 months to prep. But yeah, that's awesome. And so you guys are there from all the way. I won't say it, not high, like non-monsoon season.
Then I got admin stuff to do.
Yeah.
And which again, we're trying to work on systems. So in a regular hospital, you got all kinds of systems that need to function that, we're probably just getting by with.
Yeah.
But from continuing education for your staff to quality control things to getting ready for new front lines.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just...
And that's always shifting, I imagine.
Yeah.
And in that, we've kind of talked, but that's kind of shifting in, say, the right direction per se.
Yeah, for us it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like for the
for the good guys.
For the good guys, yeah. I was keep saying good guys. I think of like PKK, but I was like, that's Iraq, that's the Kurds. It's the KDF, PDF, Afghanistan.
Say the resistance.
The resistance, yeah. That's awesome. And so, I mean, it was amazing having you on.
Yeah,
where can people find you guys? Donate.
Website's best place.
So is that earthandmissionasian.org?
Earth-mission.org.
Okay. And then people that maybe want to volunteer. My audience kind of, it's depending who we get, but I mean,
No, I know your audience of more than most would be willing to volunteer. It's a little bit dicey right now.
Which what they would love. So then you're selling them.
I know, right.
So you're selling them. Okay, they're like in.
You're right. But our main purpose of getting people in is to train our staff, because that way, if we bring in, like, let's say we bring in, some of your medics are incredible, but and put them on the front line. We want them to train our staff, and then when they leave, then we still have the capability, right? If we get them working directly, then when they leave, we lose that. So we're a small cog in this whole big wheel, but our focus is so actually we don't need that much people coming directly to us at this point, probably. War's over, adrenaline's gone. Yeah, we can use a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
That's right awesome. Now,
All right, so just go support, donate, help spread the word, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.